So, Paul, I was looking around on Git, and we talked about this a little bit. We've actually used it in some of our assessments to do some quick sweeps and some detailed sweeps on people's and businesses 365 tenant. Tell me a little bit about what this thing is, this thing called 365 Inspect. Did you personally write this? How long has it been in existence? And just a little bit about the origin of this platform.
Yeah, so I'll start by saying I most certainly did not write it personally. I've met
Thank God, because I probably wouldn't be endorsing it if that was the case.
you can tell because it works. Um,
That's right.
no, this was a collaborative effort amongst our team, and several people have worked on it. But really, the backstory is, we do a lot of incident response. We're seeing the same three or four things that are ultimately root causes in every incident that we work in. And if you've done incident response in Microsoft environments, you'll know that the process of collecting your unified audit log can be, pretty cumbersome. It can take a very long time if you want to go back 90 or 180 days.
Got it.
So as we're coming in and we're starting to investigate an organization, we know that there's going to be at least one of a handful of things that are wrong, just based on our experience, right? They're going to have, multi-factor authentication is not enabled for everyone, or even some things that maybe were caused by the threat actor. So they have email forwarding rules set out to forward emails outside the organizations, or they say, anything coming from my payroll department, like send it to deleted items or whatever it may be. So the idea behind this originally was, hey, we're doing this. Let's just write a script that once we get access to an environment, we're running an incident. Let's go and check for these common things. That way we can start identifying those places where the threat actor might be before we actually get all of the logs in hand, and we can make a more immediate impact and try to help harden this environment. And so we did that at first, and it's just grown. It became a really useful tool. We started, the next obvious step in that is like, well, why don't we do this when there's not an incident? That way we can
Right.
stop them from happening
Right.
in the first place. So we started doing proactive assessments with them, expanding upon it to look for not just those critical things that are going to cause a breach, but also just general best practices and things that people can be doing to limit their exposure and risk within this ecosystem as a whole. So now it's around 80 some odd inspectors looking for different misconfigurations and
Uh,
security opportunities for improvement, so to speak, within your Microsoft environment.
Good. So the last time you and I spoke specifically about this, and we usually see each other's at trade shows or conferences or whatever, and casually at the club, as it's been come to know in the Katalyst circles. Um, you guys have added over 20 controls or checks, right? So how are you, like, in the life cycle perspective? We have lots of organizations that are agile and doing different things that we're aligning with. Do you guys actually treat this like a true, first class citizen from a product perspective, or is it something that, hey, just when Paul gets a little bit of time, or the team, or things are slow and the phone's not ringing, you put into it? Or do you have people that are actually working on this 365 around the world? Or are you relying on open source? How do you actually continue to mature this?
Yeah, all of the above. So there's a couple of things. So we have this open source version that's out there on the internet for anybody to use.
Yep.
We maintain that. If we start seeing or if we discover any new techniques that are being used and we know that they're actively being exploited in the wild, we will go and make sure those things get added to the repo and committed and made public immediately. We also have roughly double the number of inspectors in an internal version of this tool. Some of which are
Okay.
experimental, some of which are things that we use during our assessments that aren't necessarily critical findings, but things that we would recommend folks do to harden their environments. But we also love taking suggestions from the community, and there's absolutely been contributions made via either pull requests from third parties or people submitting issues to the GitHub repo, and we definitely look at those and appreciate any contributions there as well. And we've gotten some good ideas from there.
That's great. That's great. I was just curious on how that worked from your perspective.
Yeah. So ultimately, we've got our incident response folks. We've also got a team of offensive security professionals, pen testers, and red teamers, and the like. And we've got our Microsoft cloud experts, and really anybody in our company's able to contribute to this or make a suggestion. And we've got one guy who does the bulk of the maintenance. His name is Carl Luttrell. He's our 365 guru. But but anybody's welcome to come to him and say like, hey, are we looking for this, or do we have an inspector for this particular technique or misconfiguration item? And the answer is always, let's go take a look, and if not, then no, let's go write it and let's create it.
We'll build up. Yeah.
So, and there
Good.
is, I will say that there is also a fair bit of maintenance just to keep up with Microsoft's changes to their platform, because they'll randomly change what's
Constantly releasing. Right. Yeah. Okay, good.
sometimes we just get a notice that, hey, this thing doesn't work anymore randomly. So then we have to go back and figure out what's changed and make sure that we, keep it up and running from that perspective too, which is a lot of fun.
Got it.